Nearly everyone I know is afraid of doing or saying the wrong thing and offending someone. Leaders in particular feel tremendous pressure to do and say the right things all the time. The problem with this is it not only keeps us feeling on edge, it also tends to hold us back from approaching the very people and topics that we should be getting closer to. So this is how I respond to leaders. The question is not how to avoid offending someone, it's what to do when you do. When you've offended someone and you realize it right away, it can feel extremely stressful. The panic can set in. But there are a couple of things you can do, guidelines to follow, that can help you navigate the situation. First and foremost, stop, drop your point, and apologize immediately. You may feel flustered, you may disagree, you may yourself feel offended. But in that moment, you need to put the priority on the other person, not your feelings. You don't want to get defensive or rush to explain yourself. 99% of the time, you never meant to offend and your intention was actually really good. And maybe the other person completely misinterpreted what you were trying to say. But none of that matters. The most important thing in this moment is that the other person feels offended. Second, it may be completely obvious to you in that moment that what you said was wrong and why. And if that's the case, say so. I am so sorry. I didn't mean for that to come out that way. That shouldn't have come out that way. You're right. I appreciate you recognizing that. However, in other cases, it may not be immediately clear to you what you said that was wrong and why. In that case, ask. First apologize, and then say, can you help me understand what was offensive about this? I'd really like to understand so I don't do it again. And if that person is willing to explain it to you, fantastic. If not, apologize again and commit to going and learning about it yourself. Finally, thank them. It takes tremendous courage to be able to tell someone that was offensive or I feel offended. They're sharing something very personal and vulnerable. So make the effort to thank them and say that you appreciate their effort to create a more inclusive and welcoming environment. Now, what about a different scenario where you only realize after the fact that you've said something wrong or you may have offended someone? What do you do then? Well, go back to the person and use the same principles we just talked about. Apologize, say you realize that what you said may have been wrong and you didn't want to offend someone and you wanted to make sure that you corrected it. You don't necessarily want to ask them if they were offended, because if that person didn't feel comfortable enough in the moment to tell you, they may not feel comfortable now. So don't put that pressure on them, but just tell them you recognize that what you said is not how you wanted it to come out, and you apologize and you appreciate their patience. Now, these situations can feel super stressful and they can feel very negative, but actually if you look at the research, a lot of experts say there are two very positive things that can come out of these situations when handled correctly. The first thing to keep in mind is that if someone is comfortable enough expressing to you that you've offended them or that you've made a mistake, it's actually a really good sign of what we call psychological safety, that you've created an environment where people feel comfortable coming to you and expressing that kind of feeling and thought. Second, there's really interesting research that's just come out that tells us that when leaders make a mistake but own that mistake and talk about it openly and what they learned about it, it actually serves to generate more respect for that leader from colleagues and teams. The three things to keep in mind as you navigate these situations. First, put a priority on creating the kinds of safe spaces where people can say they're offended and people can also make mistakes and apologize and correct it. Second, really focus on your authentic leadership. And authentic leaders make mistakes, own them, apologize, and move forward. Third, be a model for how you want others in your organization and around you to handle situations like this. This may feel like a super stressful situation, but actually, if you follow some of these steps and guidelines, it's very easy to take the situation and turn it into something really positive.